Get ready for the biggest headlines in motorsport right now. Andrea Stella has called the shots and issued teams calls to arms to fundamentally change the Formula One 2026 regulations. We dive deep into what Stella is demanding from the FIA and how these proposed changes could completely reshape the sport for the upcoming season.
Stop using your finger for notes, sketches, and edits. This Jam Jake stylus pen gives your iPad a smoother, more precise writing feel with palm rejection so your hand can rest naturally on the screen. It charges fast, works for hours, and comes with replacement tips. Perfect for school, work, or creative projects. Check the link in the comments to grab it on Amazon.
Next up, we look at the intense rivalry brewing in the paddock. Jacques Villeneuve opens up on his experience with Williams' teammate Damon Hill, revealing the tough lessons he learned during their historic 1996 title fight and the reality of learning on the Formula One grid. Now it's time for the deep dive into the future of racing. We answer your biggest F1 questions as editor Matt Coch tackles everything from the potential for naturally aspirated V8 engines in 2030, to the rapid evolution of the current regulations and what changes are expected for Miami. Finally, we analyze the rising stars. Guenther Steiner pinpoints exactly why younger drivers like Kimi Antonelli are thriving under the 2026 rules, contrasting their adaptation speed against the experienced George Russell, and we tell you what this means for the championship battle. Stay with us for the full breakdown. Andrea Stella has issued a strong call to action for significant changes to the Formula One 2026 regulations ahead of the sport's return at the Miami Grand Prix. Stella has been vocal in demanding adjustments to race start procedures, a demand that was acted upon by the FIA. Following the first 3 rounds, the FIA is now investigating sweeping rule modifications to address unforeseen side effects of the new regulations, including cars slowing down on straights to conserve energy, which is impacting the spectacle of qualifying, and engine modes being overridden by onboard computers. Stella emphasized the necessity of the new power unit architecture, reminding stakeholders that the regulations were designed to ensure the participation of top manufacturers while prioritizing safety and preserving the racing spectacle. He acknowledged the complexity involved for teams, drivers, and fans over the past 4 months. Despite acknowledging positive fan reactions, evidenced by higher average approval ratings and strong sellout figures at recent races, Stella pointed to areas needing refinement. He is advocating for improvements, specifically suggesting how to ensure that, flat-out, driving during qualifying remains rewarding for drivers while simultaneously enhancing safety in starts and closing races. Meetings are currently underway between all parties, including drivers, to determine necessary adjustments under the guidance of the FIA. Stella stressed that a united spirit of collaboration is crucial, viewing this collective effort as the best response Formula One can offer. He concluded with a rallying cry for the teams, asserting that they have a critical opportunity to stabilize the sport in 2026 ahead of the Miami event. Jacques Villeneuve has offered a candid reflection on his early experiences in Formula One, specifically highlighting his dynamic with Williams' teammate Damon Hill. Speaking on the Williams Team Torque podcast, Villeneuve detailed the steep learning curve he faced upon entering the F1 paddock, despite bringing significant prior experience from the IndyCar series, including a 1995 championship and an Indianapolis 500 victory. Villeneuve acknowledged the collaborative nature of the team, stating, "You had been part and parcel of building the team, of building the car, of getting that car to be a winning car, working with Adrian Newey." However, he admitted that immersing himself in the F1 environment quickly revealed the extent of what he still needed to master. He noted that while his success in the States was notable, the competition from Hill in qualifying sessions was intense, describing Hill as being, "what a second ahead of me in quali" on subsequent tracks. In response, Damon Hill praised Villeneuve's debut, noting that the Canadian driver achieved pole position in his first Grand Prix, calling it pretty cool. Villeneuve countered this by emphasizing competitive parity, stating, "No, listen honestly. You can have that one. If I can win the race, you can have the pole. The 1996 season culminated in a title fight where Hill ultimately secured the championship, with Villeneuve finishing second in his rookie year, ahead of Michael Schumacher. Following this period, Villeneuve partnered with Heinz-Harald Frentzen at Williams in 1997, achieving his first F1 Drivers' Championship that year, with Frentzen finishing second after Schumacher was disqualified. The exchange underscores the intense, formative nature of the rivalry and partnership between the two drivers during that era of Formula One. Formula One is undergoing a period of intense scrutiny following the opening rounds, with channel YouTube editor Matt Coch addressing the paddock's biggest questions concerning future technology, regulatory changes, and the sport's direction. The discussion covered several key areas, from the prospects of naturally aspirated V8 engines to the pace of regulatory evolution. On engine technology, when questioned about the viability of naturally aspirated V8s by 2031, Coch noted that while manufacturers have invested heavily in current hybrid rules, recouping that investment is a hurdle. The future hinges on whether reverting to a naturally aspirated engine aligns with business models or if the prestige of F1 outweighs that consideration. He suggested a traditional V8 is not entirely out of the question with sustainable fuel, but remains unconvinced it will ultimately win. Regarding regulatory changes, Coch indicated that the sport is poised for relatively quick adjustments. He anticipates a few rounds of minor tweaks to refine the product, followed by a monitoring period before further revisions occur if necessary. The goal, he stated, is to tidy up the rules to restore a more familiar style of racing, rather than fundamentally altering the core. In response to calls for the FIA to take over management, Coch explained the current structure. He clarified that the FIA is the regulator, while Liberty Media holds the commercial rights. The relationship is defined by the Concord Agreement, and he argued that a complete shift would be unworkable, citing the logistical complexity and the necessity for other motorsport activities to survive financially. When asked about the sport's overall direction, Coch was candid, stating that the current regulations are too complex, constraining engineers. He believes the hybrid system confuses the sport, pushing it into territory more akin to Formula E, and expressed a preference for a traditional combustion engine alongside sustainable fuel to maintain global appeal. Looking at the current championship battle, Coch assessed Kimi Antonelli as the genuine contender, noting a significant step forward in raw ability. However, he cautioned that achieving a title requires more than just raw talent. McLaren must surpass Mercedes to achieve true domination. Finally, on the recent cancellation of a Grand Prix in Saudi Arabia, Coch attributed the decision to complex relationship management, where the event was viewed as part of a larger package deal, factoring in potential impacts on other regions. He also touched upon the ongoing discussions regarding reinstating Middle Eastern GPs, noting that logistical hurdles and paddock appetite present significant obstacles to immediate changes. Former Haas Formula One team principal Guenther Steiner has identified the key factor behind the success of younger drivers under the new 2026 regulations, attributing their rapid adaptation to technology as a significant advantage. Speaking on the Drive to Win podcast, Steiner suggested that the younger generation excels because they lack the ingrained bad habits that seasoned drivers possess, which is currently benefiting championship leader Kimi Antonelli over his Mercedes teammate, George Russell. Steiner emphasized that the primary difference lies in how quickly and effectively young drivers can assimilate new technologies. They adapt better than the seasoned drivers. They adapt quicker and better to new technologies because they are fresher. They don't have many bad habits yet which they have to change, Steiner explained. He further linked this adaptability to their upbringing, noting that growing up immersed in technology provides a distinct edge. We all said these are the guys who grew up playing on the PlayStation, and they now adapt more to the cars with the complicated steering wheels and all that stuff. This is the next iteration of those guys. They are already. Now I call them old. They're obviously not old because I'm a lot older than them. I don't want to make them older than they actually are, but it's the next generation. Steiner contrasted the situation between Antonelli and Russell, pointing out that while Russell had to shed habits from driving previous car generations, Antonelli benefits from starting fresh with the new technical landscape. Kimi has no old habits, while George has to get rid of some habits. He drove the old car for quite a long time. And you're not talking only about the power unit with the EV power and all that stuff. It's also that the aerodynamics are completely different. For him, everything is new, and he doesn't have to get rid of anything. He can go and drive the car while the other ones have to get away from the ground effect. If you have driven the ground effect cars for 5 years, it is not that you can change from one day to the next and say, "Oh, this is now different. I just adapt to it." You always fall back to some habits. This dynamic has placed Antonelli in a strong position, becoming the youngest driver to lead the championship following consecutive wins in the Chinese and Japanese Grands Prix, putting pressure on Russell heading into the season.